This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Hi, this is Joey, and this is my real voice. I'm serious. Today's show brought to you by TeePublic. Go to the Animaniacs TeePublic store by going to teepublic.animaniacs.com today. You better do it, or else my voice will be like this forever. Help me. Bye.
And welcome everybody to episode 80 of the Animaniacs.
Dough, some cash, a wad of cash. Ray, a guy who fixes cars.
Me, the one who takes out the trash. Far the distance to the stars.
So, a word that goes with well. La, a city where we dwell.
Tea with honey, it tastes well.
And that brings us back to dough.
And welcome once again to the Animaniacs. We are the only podcast out there that's dedicated to the animated television series Animaniacs. And here we explore the series episode by episode, exploring all the cultural references and gags that we can find. And in the end, we give each episode a water tower rating. I am Joey, and joining me are my co-hosts, Nathan.
Call me Googly Goop.
No. And across the country in Georgia, it's Kelly.
Hi there.
Why would I ever call you Googly Goop or whatever?
No, it's Googly Goop.
I don't.
I just thought it'd be nice.
All right. I'll just call you that boy. Well, how is everybody doing today? Kelly, first of all, we haven't seen you heard you in so long, it seems.
I know, it's been a while.
Well, we recorded our few episodes together in a row, and then you went off to do the Jip parody auditions and everything like that. So I'm sure our audience wants to know what's the status. Are you going to be on next week? What's going on now?
Oh, I have no idea. I think the audition went pretty well, and but they don't give you any kind of feedback, and they say that everyone who auditions is put into a pool of potential game players, and at any point in the next 18 months or so, you could be called, and if you don't get called in those 18 months, you are free to try out after that. But if you do get called, then they try to give you about a month's notice to prepare and make travel arrangements and fly out to the studio and do a show, or hopefully more than one show, because if you win, you get to do it more than once.
That's right. And do they record over in Los Angeles? Is that where it is?
Yeah, or Burbank. I mean, I don't know exactly. It's the Sony Studios, so right around there. Well,
here's the plan. If you get to be on Jeopardy, win or lose, we're gonna have an Animaniacs get together then, because Nathan's. You're just a stone's throw away from Burbank, right, Nathan?
Yeah.
So it'll be easy. It'll be an 8-hour drive for me, but
Is Burbank actually a city, or is it just more like a suburb of Los Angeles?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, you could say when you're in Burbank, you can say you live in Los Angeles or Burbank, just depending on your, how you feel that day. And it, of course, is where the Warners live, too. So that's always good. We can go to the Warner. We should go on the Warner Brothers tour. That's what we should do.
We should do that.
Get all the pictures in front of the water tower. My goodness.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. Anyway. Actually, one of the best places to take a picture of the water tower is actually from Universal Studios, because you can go on there's this big escalator down to the lower levels of Hollywood Studios, and at least 10 years ago you could see the water tower pretty clearly in the distance, and a lot of people just stand there with the water tower in the distance, so it's kind of It's a cool shot there, too. So maybe just go to Universal Studios. I don't know. Whatever. Well, before we make our travel arrangements for all that, let's go ahead and talk about the episode that we're going to talk about today, which is episode 80, which features Dot's Entertainment, The Girl with the Googly Goop, and Gunga Dot, as well as one final Randy Beeman segment before we say goodbye to Colin, and he goes into his house and never comes out again. It's sad. Oh. It's sad, really. But Nathan, tell us, when did this episode first premiere?
Oh boy, Joey. Okay, so this episode premiered on Saturday, February 3rd of 1996, which was just 4 days after the release of Mega Man X3 on the SNES. It was 1 day after the release of the Tommy Boy sequel, Black Sheep, and 1 day after Gene Kelly died at age 83.
The Tommy Boy sequel. Thank you very much, Nathan. Black Sheep is a film that I've never been able to get through the entire way. I think I've seen 50% of it in small chunks. It's just not that good. But yeah, I know David Spade called it the sequel to Tommy Boy at some point.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's basically, it's not really. But the best part is there's this whole road trip at the end, and it is quite hilarious. It's worth seeing the movie just for that scene.
With the roads, and the bug was going towards the windshield, and he was like, "Whoa!" Exactly, all that stuff. Yeah, maybe I have seen the whole thing, and I just forgotten 50% of it. I don't know. It's not the best, but I do remember Gene Kelly passing away at this time period. Because I was such a big, Singing in the Rain fan and everything. So that was a huge. And how old was he? 83, you said?
83.
Wow. So he lived a pretty good life there. It was pretty long, but he was on the Muppets, of course.
Yeah.
I knew with Kelly.
That's how I knew who he was.
Exactly. I was like, he was on the Muppets. That's how Kelly knows him. So I had to make sure I mentioned that too.
I was waiting to say it myself.
Well, let's go. Before we get into today's episode, though, we have some very important, Animaniacs news to discuss. So, Nathan, hit us with the Animaniacs news theme song.
It's the Animaniacs cast theme song for the news that Joey's going to sing to us, or just tell it.
Yeah, I'll just tell it. But thank you, Nathan, very much. So, did you say it's the Animani class news or the Animani?
Hey, it's all classy here in the Animaniacast show.
We're very urbane.
Yes, that's very true. How urbane. Okay. Well, this comes from the big news in recent Animaniacs Reboot land comes from Greg White, and this is from his Tumblr blog page. And on his blog, he puts the cover of episode 1, the pilot, which was finished on May 18th, 2018. Writes, "It's been just over 3 months and we've already got the first 3 scripts finished, with a bunch more close to completion. I think we're putting out some great work and everyone involved is talented and lovely. The goal is to maintain the spirit of the original, but to make it exist for today, or 2020 as it were. The sibling and Pinky segments in particular, I think, feel like great nods to the original series. And with the sibling segments in particular, the spirit of anarchy remains strong. I think the visual aspect of the show will reflect this as well. The character designs are very similar, but with just a little cleaning up to reflect the present era." Now, this is where I got to put a little bit of a side comment in from me, Joey, because I think this kind of rang a bell that I bet it's going to be Flash animation. When he says that it's going to be similar, but with a little cleaning up to reflect the present era, that to me says they're going to standardize the look of the Warners and then do that, which, I don't know, there's kind of a good and bad thing about that. I mean, the good thing is that they always look good.
They'll be consistent.
But you kind of lose a lot of the dynamic movement, I think, of these characters. I mean, I like Archer I think that's a really funny show. But it's, it's like cardboard cutouts in a lot of ways, moving across the screen. The same thing with other shows like My Little Pony and stuff, they really feel flat. And you don't get those chances, as imperfect as the original Animaniacs was when it comes to animation, they at least were able to move the characters around, 360 degrees. Whether or not they succeeded all the time was another thing, but they could do it, And I don't know if they're going to be able to do it that much. Well, maybe they could with some additional computer, assistance and everything. But to me, that's slightly disappointing if it's the words cleaning up end up becoming cheaper animation, really, when it comes down to it. That's what I think. Any thoughts on that, guys? Or
I totally agree. I think it's probably going to be some sort of flash animation, and I don't know. I do like that it will be consistent, but I am worried that it will be, as you say, flat.
Mm-hmm. Well, it goes on and says, we have the benefit in 2018 of having seen this amazing renaissance of sketch comedy, Key and Peele, Portlandia, and an entire universe of weird, cool, smart animation. So the trick is doing something that takes advantage of our vantage point while making something that is still recognizably Animaniacs. I don't look at our series as a reboot as much as I do a continuation. I hope people like it and find joy in watching it. So, right there, that sounds cool, right? Right there, I like the idea, before, Animaniacs was always compared to Rocky and Bullwinkle with its segments and everything, and he's bringing up Key and Peele and sketch comedy shows as, I think he's saying, as kind of a reference point for how the show will sort of be, and I think it's always been kind of sketch comedy in a way, don't you guys think? Sure.
Yeah.
You just change the name of it. It's the same thing. So I'm certain there will be people who love this new version, and I'm equally certain that there will be people who hate it with a passion simply because it exists at all. I don't know what to say for this latter group, but I can say that all the writers are doing great work, and everyone involved, from Amblin to Warner's to Hulu to the entire production staff, cares deeply about getting this right. A lot of us grew up watching the original series, and so we're not just cavalierly storming in and drastically changing things because we can. We're making Animaniacs for sure, and we're making it for our adult selves as well as future generations who haven't seen the original, as well as everyone in between who loved what the original stood for. Animation production begins very soon, and then we'll really be off to the races. Well, there we go. What are your thoughts, Kelly? Is this promising, or what do you think?
I'm not sure yet. I don't know. It kind of makes me nervous where he says that I'm sure people will love it, but I'm also equally sure people will hate it. So, you can tell he's definitely stealing himself for the haters.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if they're venturing so far from the original that we love that, they know it's going to turn people off immediately, or, of course, I guess there are people who are upset just because it is being rebooted. So I don't know. I really would like to see the art and, get a better idea of what it's going to look like. More so than anything. Yeah,
we can assume that it's going to look at least very similar to that teaser poster, right? With them all jumping out of the water tower shape of Warner Brothers. It would be weird if they decided to change it drastically from that right there. Which, by the way, that thing right there, which shows Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, and Pinky and the Brain, which Pinky and the Brain look exactly on model. But I did see online that Tom Ruegger did comment that Wacko's nose is too small in the poster, which I thought was funny and true, because I never noticed it before. I was like, oh, you know what? Wacko's nose is a little too small on there. They should have fixed that. Oh well. Nathan, what do you think?
I think I'm gonna hate it no matter what. No, I don't know. I'll just have to see. It's still. I'm not gonna get my hopes up too high though. But it might be good. It might not be good.
Well said. Well, I certainly don't think it's going to be anything as drastic as, say, the Thundercats reboot that's going to be coming out shortly.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
I didn't think that was serious, and I saw that whoa, the art. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like Adventure Time, and Thundercats had a baby, and it came out all wrong.
I guess I'm just not a big fan of the so-called modern animation style. I really like the old 80s cartoon style.
Yeah. Well, Nate, you've seen that, Nathan?
No, I saw an episode of the reboot.
Oh, the reboot of Reboot. That's right. I just saw that recently. That it's live action, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah, I couldn't get through the first episode.
Oh,
it's nothing like Reboot.
I hate it when you can't even get through the first episode of something that you're granted you're not even necessarily that looking forward to it, but you're like, I'll push through it. I'll get through it, because they never get they never get it right necessarily in the first episode. Maybe they'll take the second or third, but yeah, there's been a few times where I go, okay, I'm done. 15 minutes into a new show.
This show is not going to be good no matter what.
Well,
at least not what I'm looking for in a show.
Well, check out the Thundercats models, Nathan, just to give you an idea. Actually, if you watch the entire, there's a teaser trailer for the Thundercats, and they go through the Warner Brothers animation studio, and they go very quickly by the Animaniacs reboot poster. You can see it if you look really quickly. It'll blur past it. But yeah, the models look completely different. And I'll tell you, I haven't seen. I hate to say it like that nobody seems to like it, but it really seems like nobody seems to like the designs. I feel kind of bad for the designers, the animators over there working hard on this Thundercats series, because it seems like the majority of social media has already condemned it to be a failure before it's even premiered, which is sad. In my opinion, that Thundercats show, if it is at least mildly successful, then maybe they'll do a more traditional Thundercats later, because you have Teen Titans Go, which looks very similar to this Thundercats thing, but you also have normal Batman doing stuff, and you can have both. You can have both the silly Thundercats and the serious Thundercats, and Snarf.
I always like Snarf.
Okay.
Whenever my brother and I had, he mostly had the Thundercats action figures, and so we'd play with the action figures and stuff. And I always liked to be Snarf, just because he was fun to talk like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's the only one that was the easiest one to do an impression of. I love the Thundercats toys. I had Mumra and Lion-O, and you could put like this little flashlight thing on the back of their, or a little battery pack on the back of their, spine or something, and their eyes would light up. It was so cool. I loved it. Oh, anyway.
The good old days.
The good old days. Well, speaking of the good old days, let's go ahead and go back to the good old days, and let's get right into our discussion now of Animaniacs episode 80, and let's start with Dot's Entertainment. And Dot's Entertainment was written by Nicholas Hollander, and it was directed by Charles Vizier. Kelly, tell us what happens here in Dot's Entertainment.
It's a musical. It's like they took a whole bunch of Andrew Lloyd Weber musicals and mixed them all together. And even from the opening title, this is Dot's Entertainment. It's a play on the Cats theatrical poster.
Yes.
And,
it looks almost identical to it, like not even to the point of like even trying to be like a joke.
Yeah,
It just looks
it's
like
really cool looking.
Yeah, and the word dots is written like cats. It just looks really cool title card.
Yeah. So they're in Cats of Phantom Boulevard, and it's a mashup of Cats and Phantom of the Opera and Sunset Boulevard.
We're Cats of Phantom Boulevard, oh wow! Now singing, now dancing, now ticket sales and dancing. We're the Cats of Phantom Boulevard. The Cats of Phantom Boulevard. Yeah. Great, fabulous, splendid singing. Except what? This note, and this note, and this note, and this note, and this note. Your singing stinks!
It's Andy Loudwebby instead of Andrew Lloyd Weber, and he's not very happy with the music, and starts pitching a fit. He's having an artistic tantrum, and they're trying to find someone else to be in the musical, and they say, well, what about that girl? And then it goes to die, and I mean, so then we change. It's a big. We go from musicals to now it's like a TV parody, and what is it parodying? That Girl, right?
That Girl, yeah. Which I think honestly, the most I ever watched of That Girl was just the opening credits.
Yeah, is that the one with Marlo Thomas?
Yes.
Diamonds, daisies, snowflakes, that girl, chestnuts, rainbows, springtime. Is that girl? She's tinsel on a tree. She's everything.
But yeah, I would only watch. I'm glad they just did the opening credits for That Girl because otherwise I would not get the reference at all.
Yeah, but it seemed to go on a little longer.
It did.
I mean, it lasted for a while. So, but then they end up doing parodies of other musicals too. They do Sound of Music, and Webby gets upset because he's like, I didn't even write that one. And because I believe I think that was Rodgers and Hammerstein. Yes.
We'll say yes. That sounds right to me.
And Evita, which is Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Don't shout at us, Mr. Webby, because your show's a flop. Oh, when your plays stink, you blame the actors. You know what we think. There are other factors, like the playwright needs to rewrite, and the libretto needs a stiletto, and the entire book needs a new cook. If you composed it, then you dispose it.
So they do their usual thing where they irritate him and everything, and that's really about it.
Yeah, they at the very end they knock some sandbags on him and crush him, and then
the audience cheers too. It seems like they like. I can't tell if they're cheering because they don't like him or that they do like his music,
or that just the
like
whole
they're
thing.
Happy he had sandbags dropped on him.
Well, they start cheering when they start throwing all the scripts in the garbage disposal and turning on the water, and you should rewrite all your plays, and then everyone cheers, and then he thinks they're cheering for him.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It did get pretty harsh towards Andrew Lloyd Webber at the very end, with all the, your scripts need rewrites and everything like that. It makes me wonder if any of the writers or, if Nicholas Hollander had any experience working with Andrew Lloyd Webber in the past somehow, or maybe just, did one of his musicals once, either as an actor or, something like that, perhaps. Who knows? How many Andrew Lloyd Webber plays have you guys actually seen on stage? Kelly, have you seen any of them live?
I've seen Phantom of the Opera about 3 or 4 times.
3 or 4. I saw it once on Broadway, and then, of course, the movie many times because, well, my wife loves that movie. And
I've seen Phantom of the Opera, and I think that's all I've seen of Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah, and then, of course, I'm trying to think if I saw any other the additional musicals. I mean, Jesus Christ Superstar. I've seen that live. So that's something.
Vita the movie.
Yeah, Vita the movie. That counts.
I've seen part of the movie.
That counts. Well, he's such a a prolific composer, of these musicals, and still doing stuff today, I think. And
yeah, I see him on Comedy Bang Bang every now and then.
I always see him on Comedy Bang Bang on the podcast, which is of course done by Paul F. Tompkins.
Lord Weber, welcome back to the show.
Scottrick, be quiet. I'm very excited to be here. Bursting at the seams and bursting all my buttons, bursting to the max. I'm very excited that I've made a new musical discovery.
A new musical discovery?
Yes! I'm a bit of a musical explorer.
Oh, really?
I've been around the musical world.
A Lewis and Clark of sorts.
Who?
All right.
If it's ever Paul F. Tompkins doing...
Sir Andrew Lloyd.
Yeah, Lord Andrew Lloyd Weber, I believe. It's Sir Lloyd Andrew Lloyd Weber. Something along those lines.
Speaking of musicals, I'm seeing Hamilton this weekend.
Ooh, well that should be good.
So good. Have you seen it before?
No.
It is amazing. Like, so good.
You've seen it a couple times, haven't you, Nathan?
I've only seen it once. My wife's seen it twice, though. So.
Oh, wow. It only just started touring, right?
Yeah, I think about a year ago.
Oh, okay. I knew it.
Maybe a little less. Yeah.
So, this is his first time in Atlanta, so we managed to snag tickets.
Nah. Is that your favorite musical, Nathan? Is Hamilton now?
I don't know. It's a very good musical. And if you haven't heard it, you can listen to the whole thing on Spotify. And it's like they sing the whole time. They sing everything. So
should I listen to it before I see it?
It's up to you. I listened to it multiple times before I heard it. It's all rapping, so it goes pretty quick. There's still a lot of visuals to see, so it's still worth seeing. I don't know. It's.
I mean, I don't want the ending to be spoiled or anything.
Well, I don't know how much you know of history.
Quite a bit.
I mean, like.
Don't go back to that commercial from the 90s with the milk. The milk commercial.
Yeah.
What was that? Was it like a dentist or what?
It was this commercial for Got Milk, and which I always say milk wrong. I always say milk, and it's milk. It drives my wife crazy.
Milk.
She goes, I don't want any milk. I want milk. I'm like, sorry, jeez. Anyway, it was this Got Milk commercial. And the guy shoved a brownie or something in his face, and it was like the radio guy says, okay, caller number 9, it's who killed Alexander Hamilton in a duel.
Hello, for $10,000 who shot... Excuse me? I'm afraid your time is almost up. I'm sorry, maybe next time.
Got Milk. And that was on all the time.
And that commercial is how I knew that for when it would come up on Jeopardy and stuff.
Everybody knew that one. That was if you didn't know who shot Alexander Hamilton after that commercial, I feel sorry for you because it was on, like I said, all the time, all hours, whether it was a cartoon or primetime TV. They showed that commercial all the time. Well, anyway, so this first cartoon, what are some moments that you guys really liked about it? This parody of multiple Andrew Lloyd Weber musicals. Nathan, let's start with you.
I liked all the parodies of the songs they did. It was a lot of fun. I'm wondering, were they supposed to be singing the actual lyrics to these songs? Because, I mean, even the first song wasn't actual lyrics to any song, but he was getting upset when they weren't singing. They were singing about going to the dentist or something instead of whatever the actual song is.
I came in here and took a seat. He says, don't eat candy, that is sweet. I said to him, my heart is breaking. I chewed some gum and that's the truth. It pulled the filling from my tooth. And now I feel my back teeth aching. Dental Avenue, painful avenue. Root canal is only the beginning. Toothless Avenue. ruthless avenue, and only my dentist will be grinning.
What? That's not in the script!
That one I'll try to look up what they were parodying in that dentist song. I'm going to guess it's something from Sunset Boulevard, perhaps.
Yeah, it must be. I've never seen that one.
Yeah, that's the one
I knew there's one from Cats. I knew that one, and I knew the one from Pan of the. So it must have been from Sunset Boulevard. But yeah, well, I don't know what the actual song was.
I know the one where Wacko is singing about a midnight snack is a parody of Feelings.
Yeah, from Cats.
Yeah.
Snack time, got to nosh in the midnight. The time is right for a light bite. Gotta eat something tonight. A cookie, a sandwich, a cruller, or Limburger cheese. No more fish balls, if you please. Now's the time to dine.
That was a little, you could tell, okay, that's the parody of that. But yeah, the dentist song. Hey, folks, let us know if you recognize that tune, or at least what it's parodying.
Or unless you figured it out and then just play it right here.
No,
you didn't figure it out.
I didn't figure it out. No, Joey in the future could not figure that one out. So if you can figure it out, you can just go ahead and let us know. Tweet at us, Facebook at us, or send us an email, animaniacast@retrozap.com. Kelly, what are some things that you liked about this first cartoon?
I also liked the parodies. I wish I were more familiar with Cats and Sunset Boulevard to have recognized the parodies and knew what songs they were based on. Because from Cats, about the only thing I know is Memory.
Yeah.
So.
Memories, not Feelings. I see. That shows you how much I know about Cats. It's like, I think it's called Feelings, right? No, it's called Memories.
I think you were thinking Felines.
Oh, there you go. It's about felines. There you go. Thank you. But yeah, it's.
And
go ahead.
I think the lady in Sunset Boulevard, I think that was supposed to be Glenn Close, right? Because I think I don't know if she originated the role in the musical, or she seemed to, I think, did it for a very long time.
Maybe. I know that Sunset, the Sunset Boulevard, I know it was a movie as well that wasn't a musical, I guess, right? And
yeah, it's an old movie though.
Yeah, with I'm Ready for My Close-Up, Mr. DeMille and all that. And so maybe it was supposed to be a caricature of her or Glenn Close. I don't know. I got the feeling when I saw that woman at the very beginning, okay, that might be a caricature of somebody. I just don't know who it's supposed to be. Anyway, what are some other moments any other moments you guys liked?
I liked when Wacko did his version of the song of that girl. That was
my favorite part, I think, too.
I like because they already did a parody of that, right? With You're Gonna Make It After All. Or is that a different show?
That's the Mary Tyler Moore. Yeah, Mary Tyler Moore. But
that girl and Mary Tyler Moore seem like the same show to me. But I don't know if that's...
Well, definitely when you watch the theme song, the opening credits are very similar, right? It's like a girl walking around the place looking at stuff.
That's why I got confused.
And then I was like, why isn't she throwing her hat in the air?
Yeah. But yeah, that was probably my favorite. Actually, my favorite part of the Wacko thing is the fact that they started doing the whole. I thought they were going to do the whole long theme song all over again, which I thought that would have been even better, but they cut it a little shorter. I also like the fact that Wacko's kite can't fly as far. He just kind of like droops down whereas Dot's kept going up in the air, which I thought was cute. But this is our first one where it really focuses on Dot, which was nice to see. There hasn't been an episode or a segment that really focused as much on Dot as this one has. So that was cool to see her just kind of take the starring role of this episode. So
yeah, I mean, this whole episode is very Dot heavy. So it's I think it's only the Randy Beeman segment that's not going to have.
Well, yeah, it doesn't have any girls.
Dot.
Yeah.
This way to commercials. Hey, it wasn't my idea.
According to legend, General Grievous was known to boast of the number of lightsabers he had acquired from the bodies of his slain Jedi enemies. Grievous was the first in a long tradition of collectors of rare items. A tradition that continues to this day on the Retro Zap podcast known as the Dork Lair.
Dork Lair.
Hey, Robert, why should people listen to another retro gaming podcast?
You mean our cast, David? We do have to keep this short, you know.
Yes, well, I guess we should start with the fact we celebrate old school video games.
And we have awesome guests and game giveaways. Don't forget that.
Plus our game show and your favorite segment, Random Select.
Don't remind me. Are we done yet?
Listen to our cast, another retro gaming podcast, part of RetroZap.com.
Finally, back to my beer.
You want a show? We'll give you a show. Back to Animaniacs.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next segment then, and the next one is called The Girl with the Googly Goop.
The censors all protest, cause she's practically undressed. The cartoon vamp, she's a tramp. Hello, Googie.
And The Girl with the Googly Goop was written by Gordon Bressick and Charles M. Howell IV. It was directed by Charles Vizier. Nathan, what happens here in The Girl with the Googly Goop?
All right. Well, we've got some found footage. This is from the 1930s of the Warners when they were loaned out to a Googly Goop cartoon. And this is the girl with the Googly Goop, and this is when she meets Little Red Riding Hood. Like, she's Little Red Riding Hood, and she's going to go see her grandmother. And the Warners are in this 1930s cartoon. Everything's alive, and they're really freaked out.
How's that for an entrance?
Lovely. I've always wanted to be regurgitated into a cartoon.
Me too.
Ew, creepy. Everything's alive.
Faboo.
Yeah, we'd better get with the program.
So I guess they're kind of modern day cartoon. It's a weird. Usually when we do these found footage, they're also in that time period, so they don't notice how weird it is that everything's weird. But in this case, they must have time traveled using their water tower or something.
So aren't they Time Lords?
They are Time Lords. So they've gone back in time, and now they're like, oh, weird, everything's alive. And so they run into Googly Goop, who it looks very much like Betty Boop. And she is going on her way to the grandmother's when the censor comes over and says, hey, this is inappropriate. You shouldn't be dressed like that. Take that dress off.
No kissing in these cartoons, and entirely no lewd behavior and attire. Like that outfit, for instance. Take it off this instant.
Oh! Good night, everybody.
He's like, no, you should not be like that. And then like Wacko's like, hey, she's the girl from Googly Goop or something like that. And then there's a song, which is a lot of fun.
The way she kisses is uncanny. She ain't nothing like your granny. She's the girl the censors want to banny.
Call me Googie, Googly Goop.
Watch her do her flapper dancing. Her look is totally entrancing.
In cartoons, there's no romancing.
Just call me Googie, Googly Goop.
Heidi flies.
Heidi flies.
Heidi Lamar.
Heidi Lamar.
Yahooty hooty menuin.
Yahooty hooty menuin.
Hi. Yo-yo ma.
Yo-yo ma.
And then the moon comes out, and it turns out the censor is the big bad wolf. Plot twist. And then the bad wolf takes Googly Goop, and that's when they decide they either need to go rescue her or the cartoon will keep going on forever. So they rescue her from the big bad wolf by throwing food at him. And then when they meet grandmother, they all wear Betty Boop-like dresses.
Never seen a dress so pretty.
Cartoon girls are much too flirty.
What do you want? It's 1930.
Call me Googie, Googly Goop.
And then they pop out of the cartoon and into an ink bottle, which I think might happen in Betty Boop. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, they had an inkwell that the Betty Boop, and they had this other clown as well, and then the clown's name escapes me. But yeah, Fleischer cartoons used to do a lot of those live action mixed with animation things. So that was nice to see. That was probably the highlight of the cartoon for me. It's like, ooh, they did kind of live action, like a real picture with the Warners in it. That's neat.
Yeah. Was Bimbo her clown friend?
Bimbo, that sounds right. Yeah.
Because Frank Sinatra mentions Bimbo, and I'm like, I don't know.
Or it might have been Bimbo, but it might have been Coco the clown.
Could be.
Because I think Bimbo might have been the parody of Coco. Whatever. The whole thing is like a parody / salute / making fun of. I guess that's a parody. Betty Boop. Was it just me, or did it bother anybody else that her nose was red, and that kind of took away from the power of, I don't know, the Yakko, Wacko, and Dot having red noses? And is it just me? I mean, shouldn't only the Warners have red noses and not this Betty Boop character?
It didn't bother me.
Hey, I'm fine. Girl power.
You could have red noses too. Okay, well, whatever then. I'll let her have a red nose too then. Cause
you're sounding like those Star Wars haters.
I know. No, don't get me started on those people. It's been a week. It's been a bad week.
I told you. I warned you.
It's been a bad week. I will say that, when all this, not to get off too much of a tangent, not that we ever do, but
that's when it's fun.
There's a bunch of people out there who call themselves Star Wars fans who aren't Star Wars fans. They're just haters and trolls, and they need to go away. They can't.
But I mean, people act like this is a new thing, and as someone who used to read all the EU books when they came out and everything else, I mean, this is not a new thing, because as long as Star Wars has existed and the internet has existed, there have been horribly rude people. I mean, R.A. Salvatore, or Salvatore, however you pronounce his name, got death threats when he killed off Chewbacca.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. It's like, just, guys, it really is. As much as I love Star Wars, it is just a movie at the same time.
It's okay to be passionate, but
yes.
I mean, be kind, too. I mean, and it's okay not to like stuff, but just be courteous. And if you don't like it, just go find something else you do like.
Yeah, exactly.
There's other things. Or go back to the original stuff that you do like and just kind of forget about this new stuff. And
no one says you have to like the new stuff. You can totally dig the original 6 films or 3 films, depending on your point of view, and just live doing that. And I'll just continue to have fun doing every single Star Wars film there is and having fun with it. And
yeah, it was like I used to read every single book that came out, and some of them multiple times, and now I don't. I mean, I'll read them occasionally, pick one up, but it's not. They don't really grab me the way they used to, so I don't usually read them too much.
Yeah,
and that's okay. I mean,
that's okay.
Some are better than others, and maybe some are geared towards a different audience than me. Because some of them are young adult books or for kids or something. So I mean, some of them are still enjoyable. There was one young adult book. It's marketed as a young adult, I think, but it read like an adult novel. But yeah, I mean, not everything's going to be for everybody. Some of it's geared towards different ages. Some, maybe for the newer fans, and some for the older fans for nostalgia. I don't know, but you don't have to like everything, and nobody expects you to. Just be kind.
Exactly. It's like you're going to a buffet, There's you can eat this food, or you can eat every single thing at the buffet, or you can pick just the certain things that you want to eat and then just go with that. It's okay.
I went and got lunch at work today, and they had like pulled pork sandwich and brown beans and corn, and you had to buy the meal. And I was like, well, I know I'm not going to eat the beans, so don't even bother giving them to me. And she said, well, I can give you 2 helpings of the corn. I said, that's perfect. And that was fine. Exactly. So yeah, you double up on what you love and just ignore what you don't like.
Exactly. Yeah, see, food analogies, that I can understand. Well, let's go ahead and get into some of the cultural references of this first one. I mean, it's like we mentioned, it's Charles Fleischer parody going on, and obviously Betty Boop, and they do have Mr. Hayes right there, who's Will Hayes is, I believe, what he calls himself in the cartoon.
The Hayes
right?
office.
Right. So they had back in the 1920s to 1922 to 1945, I believe. Oh, he was the president of the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America, and there happened to be this Hays Code. Before there was, ratings and stuff on these films, it was kind of like, to a certain extent, you could kind of do what you wanted to do. And there was some very risque stuff that happened in the early films, including there was even some nudity and things like that, as long as the producers could say, well, it was like, it's artistic, you could get away with it that way. But the Hays Code really put a lockdown on what people could and could not show and how they could and could not act. And it was not very popular with the artists of the day, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, being from Georgia, I'm familiar with Gone with the Wind and that movie production. And there was a word that I don't know if I could say on our podcast because it's pretty family friendly. And but there's a word at the end of the movie that the Hays office didn't want to allow in, and the producer, I think he paid a fine, and he was really adamant because it's a very important line, and has it lacks the punch if they don't put that word in, and they tried it all different ways, and finally ended up getting that line in, mostly as it was written. It wasn't verbatim from the book, but got that curse word in.
Yeah, exactly. Is it frankly, my dear, that line?
Yeah.
So that line right there, we've got to find.
Yeah, it almost didn't make it. It was a lot of work to get that one line in the movie.
Well, my goodness. See, and that is so tame by today's standards. It's ridiculous. Just ridiculous. But yeah, a very important line.
Yeah, they used to be so strict.
Yeah.
You go. Where shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give it.
Googly Goop.
Well, so, yeah, you can see the Will Hays right here, calling out Betty Boop. And a lot of, I was looking at a lot of stuff talking about this episode, and many people think that because of the Hays Act, a lot of the Betty Boop cartoons kind of lost their, quality, but definitely a lot of their risque bite that was so popular with the character to begin with. But anyway, the main reference that I could really see was when they were singing this song, very similar to the Heidi, Heidi, Heidi Ho song, the swing era. And Yakko sings Heidi, Heidi, Heidi Fleiss, which was a very 90s reference in this 1930s cartoon. Heidi Fleiss ran a prostitution ring for Hollywood.
It was another reason they're Time Lords.
Exactly.
So.
It's definitely a Time Lord situation in
was
this
that
point.
the one that Charlie Sheen was involved in?
Yes. Heidi Fleiss and Charlie Sheen. He was in the Black Book of Heidi Fleiss, I believe. And but luckily nothing else, bad happened from Charlie Sheen later on. So he cleaned himself up, and no, I'm kidding.
Did you catch the next part of that where they go
winning
Eddie Lamar?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard that.
Hedy Lamar, and Hedy Lamar, of course, was not only an actress from the 40s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, but she's also an inventor. She invented a way for torpedoes to not be tracked. I believe that she could
radar or something like that.
Yeah, something with radar where it could change the torpedo, could change its frequency. So that
basically we have cell phones partially because of her.
That's right. So it could change frequencies from one. You can go from one tower to the next, or one Wi-Fi signal to the next, without loss of signal, or much loss of a signal anyway. So thank you, Hedy Lamar, not Hedley Lamar from Blazing Saddles, but Hedy.
That's what I know more than her. Sadly, it's like
Hedley. Her name was actually Hedwig.
Oh, Hedwig.
Yeah, I was going back and looking her up on Wikipedia, and I'm like, wow, her name was Hedwig.
That just sounds like a Harry Potter.
I've never known anybody named Hedwig other than, the owl, but... And I thought it would be a guy's name at that, so that's why she was Hetty, I guess.
Well, another name they say is Yehudi I can't even say it right. Yehudi Menuhin. I can't even say it, but they say it right in the cartoon.
Yehudi Menuhin.
And I had no idea who that man was. He was a violinist, considered one of the finest violinists of the 20th century. And
I thought they were just saying Ben, you in, and then he's like, yeah, I'm in.
No.
I remember the next one that they said.
And what's that?
Yo-Yo Ma.
Yo-Yo Ma. He's still around. He's still doing his. He's plays the cello, right?
Yeah, and he has worked on several occasions with John Williams. I believe he did 7 years in Tibet, and also Memoirs of a Geisha. And they also performed the piece that John Williams wrote for Obama's inauguration.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, Yo-Yo Ma is still doing his thing. I had a CD of Yo-Yo Ma and Bobby McFerrin together. It was the neatest collaboration of sounds I've heard in a while. So yeah, Yo-Yo Ma. It's a cool name.
Yeah.
It's a cool
There was
dude.
a episode of Seinfeld with Yo-Yo Ma. Well, Kramer couldn't listen to Yo-Yo Ma's cello without getting a concussion or something. I don't know. It was something. He had a brain injury, and
yeah, he kept yelling
so
out Yo-Yo Ma.
Yeah,
something like that. It's a fun thing to say. So
yeah.
But anyway, that's Googly Goop. I mean, there's, I guess, one weird moment, at the very beginning of this cartoon. I don't know if you guys thought it was weird too, where the words are, the censors all protest because she's practically undressed. The cartoon vamp, and then Dot says, she's a tramp. Hello, Googie. And then Dot is just looking mean and just upset at Googly or Googily Goop or whatever her name is. Did you guys think that was a little odd too, with Dot getting so mad over at the very beginning of this cartoon?
Yeah, it's a little strange, but
well, definitely reminded me a lot of Toontown too. Roger Rabbit and I don't know. It was an interesting cartoon. Kelly, what were some of your favorite moments of this cartoon?
Well, like I said, I like the Hedy Lamarr and Yo-Yo Ma references. But I also thought it was funny how at the end, the grandma and the girl from Googly Goop and Dot, they gave her a black dress, and you could hardly even see it because, Dot's body's black, so it hardly looked like she was wearing anything, which I thought was kind of weird. I mean, it just didn't show up on her at all.
Yeah.
So she's dancing and but I thought it was funny since they were talking about the girl being kind of undressed. Well, Dot wearing the dress looked undressed, so that's kind of interesting. But and the little dance that they did was neat.
Yeah, and who knows why Googly Goop is like a doggish creature, and yet her mom and grandmother are both humans. It's a cartoon. Who cares? But still, it's just weird. I really wish that her nose was not red. Speaking of red noses, one of my favorite parts, when Yakko's nose was running. And
Why didn't you take care of that before the cartoon started?
I did, but this place is scaring the you-know-whats right out of me.
You don't need to go to the potty.
Yes, I do.
Nah, in these cartoons, the potty comes to you.
I'm on my way to Flushing.
I know just how he feels.
This is gonna be the most frightening 6 minutes of our lives.
I know just how you feel. Hey, my nose is running.
Prepare to wipe.
He almost had a potty emergency too.
he did, and that has got to be one of the most horrific ideas of, don't worry, the bathroom comes to you here. You don't have to go to the bathroom because the bathroom will go to you. That's like the most horrific idea of having to use a sentient toilet. No, I would, no.
I can't potty there.
I know. I thought the Flintstones had it bad when they had like an elephant shower, but like an actual walking, talking toilet that you have to use. No, I know that sounds horrible. Nathan, what about you? Anything that you liked in this cartoon?
Yeah, I mean, it was just cute seeing everything dancing and moving all the time, like all the houses being alive. It was a little creepy, but it was fun. I don't know if there's anything that I like that wasn't already mentioned. So
yeah. Well, again, the stretchiness.
I thought it was a nice. Yeah, And it was a nice twist. I didn't know the wolf was going to be the censor. I like that, but
yeah, because the wolf was at the beginning and then at the end. I don't know. Yeah, it was.
It looked different too.
The wolf had changes in his character design a couple times. It seemed like it didn't quite. The wolf didn't, in my opinion, didn't quite match up with the style of the balloony barnyard animal kind of thing. He looked a little bit more modern.
Yeah, he probably also warped back with the Warners.
Sure, there we go. Why the heck not? Again, Nathan, we'll have to get our special time, Lord edition of the Animaniacast one of these days, of all the times where the Warners were really using their water tower as a TARDIS. Because this is definitely one of those opportunities.
Yeah, this has to be one because there's clearly too referential.
Yeah, to the 90s, and it's supposed to be in the 30s. Although it was recorded in the 30s, it's blowing my mind, man.
There's a weird time zone. Yeah, like it's supposed to take place in 1930, but it was made in 1931, I guess. Like because they say in the song it's 1930.
Yeah, well, they show the calendars of 30, but I don't think Betty Boop premiered until after 1930.
I think 1932,
Yeah, exactly. 1932, I believe Betty Boop
But this isn't Betty Boop, it's Googly Goop.
Who came first.
Exactly. Betty Boop is just a ripoff of Googly Goop.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get to our last Well, actually, before we get to our last cartoon, we have a Randy Beeman segment. The last one.
Hey, this is Colin, voice of Randy Beeman's pal from Animaniacs, and you're listening to the Animaniacast.
Okay, bye.
And in this Randy Beeman segment, Colin comes out and talks to us all about the time that Randy Beeman's dad told him about carrots being good for him. So
Randy Beeman's dad, Mr. Beeman, who is smart, said to eat lots of carrots to get to see really good in the dark. And so Randy Beeman ate carrots all the time, and he turned orange.
And that's the end of that. Which I believe will happen if you do eat too many carrots. You can turn orange, but you would have to eat like an enormous amount, like to the point where why would you keep eating carrots at that point?
Yeah, and the whole eyesight. Well, that's a myth. Actually, you do not get good eyesight from eating carrots.
Hey, I've never seen a rabbit with glasses, so try to prove me wrong, Nathan.
Do you know why that myth exists,
why?
Joey? Oh, so in Britain during like World War II, I believe it was, they had radar, but they didn't want Germans to know that they had radar or something. So they're like, oh no. Our men just have been eating lots of carrots, so it helps them see at night, and that way they can attack the Nazi bombers. So it was just a trick the Germans, and then it just it got spread. So everyone's like, oh yeah, that's how those British are so good at shooting Nazis. They eat their carrots, and then so if you eat too much carrots, you can get too much beta carotene, and that will turn you orange. So just don't eat too much.
And now we know what is the main part of Donald Trump's diet. So there we go.
I guess so. It can be toxic too if you eat way too much. After you turn orange, if you keep eating it, it can be deadly.
But that is a one of the first government conspiracies right there with carrots in eyesight. There we go. Or it's a myth. A what?
It's a myth.
Myth.
That's a myth. What? Myth.
Yeah.
Yes, myth.
Okay. Well, anyway, so that, what do you guys think about that? The last Randy Beeman segment of the show. Kelly, Nathan, what do you think?
I don't think Randy Beeman's father was as smart as Colin thinks he is, because he says Randy Beeman's dad, Mr. Beeman, who is smart, but he didn't know that carrots don't let you see in the dark, and that they'll turn your boy orange. He didn't know that. So I enjoyed it. It's the most realistic one. Usually they're all based off of rumors, but this one was like the most realistic one. So
I guess it really happened. Kelly, what about you? Anything?
It was cute.
Yeah. And he had a bunch of chewing gum that he was really disgustingly putting in his hands and having trouble with. And I think he put it back in his mouth at the end too, right? So
yeah, I think so.
Gross, Colin. Anyway, we really enjoyed all these Randy Beeman segments. This is one of the cuter ones, that's for sure. And it's just sad that he's gone now. But
maybe he'll be back for the new series.
Yes, exactly.
As long as they have the original voice actor. That's
exactly. I would, just like we were talking with Colin Wells back what was that, about a year or so ago?
Yeah.
When we were talking to Colin and saying how the time Randy Beeman, what did he say? Like the time Randy Beeman saved my life in Afghanistan. as if Colin would be a war veteran now. I think that would be a very interesting spin on it.
It'd be educational or
sure.
something.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the last segment here today, and that is it's a poem, really. It's Gunga Dot. Gunga Dot was written by Randy Rogel, and it was directed by John McClanahan and Rusty Mills. And basically, here in Gunga Dot, it's a parody. It's a parody of Gunga Din, which was originally written by Rudyard Kipling, who of course wrote Rikki Tikki Tavi and The Jungle Book, among other things. And I actually went back and listened to somebody reading Gunga Din last night because I was not really familiar with it that much at all, other than the ending line. But anyway, in this version, the parody, Gunga Dot is kind of like the server. She serves water and drinks to everybody in this. I guess it's kind of like a resort, right? Is this where they're living, or all these characters are?
It's like an oasis.
An oasis? Is that what it is? Perhaps, I don't know. But
I don't know. That's what Rita might call it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they look at the drink and call it an oasis. But anyway.
From Karachi to Botswana, they all tell the story, Bwana, of the desert where the ground is burning hot, of the wind that cracks the stones, where the sun'll bleach your bones, and the legend there that's known as Gunga Dot. It was back in 22. We were west of Kathmandu, on the Afghan border headed towards Bombay. We were traveling out of Kari on an elephant safari when I heard the cry.
We're out of Perrier! Oh, Flavio, is it true?
We're out of Crystal Geyser, too, and all that sparkling water Evian we brought.
It isn't right. It isn't nice.
We are also out of ice. Come and help us, please, O Gunga Dot.
Basically, if you look at the Animaniacs pay-or-play contracts, every one of those characters is in this cartoon. And even like Newt the dog has one line. They brought back Artie Mills to say a line.
I'd like a cold, refreshing drink for myself and for a mink.
Well, you'll have to stand in line for Gunga Dot.
Basically, they're all ordering, I should say, Dot around the place to give them more water in the pool, water to bathe with, water to shave with, water to go surfing in, and it's just driving her crazy. Meanwhile, Pinky and the Brain are in another area of the desert, and they're trying to soak up all the water with a giant sponge. They fail and end up getting flooded with even more water when Dot climbs to the top of the water tower, which just happens to be here at this oasis, and floods everything in India, and it eventually creates the Indian Ocean, so everyone gets to sunbathe on the beach.
Yes, she pulled that little lever, seemed like water came forever, and there's not a spot, they say, it didn't reach. And after all of that commotion, she had formed the Indian Ocean, where everyone now lounges on the beach. So when beneath a desert sky, if your canteen's running dry, and you need someone who's Johnny on the spot, you can be her clientele.
But you better tip me well.
You're a better one than we are, Gunga Dot.
It's similar to the line, "You're a better man than I am, Gunga Din," I believe is the original line. Something along those lines. But Gunga Din, the original story is about Gunga Din, this kind of native Indian who's like there to basically get water to all the British soldiers who are fighting, and ends up getting killed at the very end. There was a movie.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. That's a short poem. But there was a movie called Gunga Dot, which I had not seen, although I did watch a few minutes of Mr. Magoo cartoon, where Mr. Magoo had a series of cartoons that it's escaping my brain right now, but it was him going through pieces of literature and acting them out. And Mr. Magoo died at the end of the cartoon. He got shot by the enemy army. And they said the end of the poem right there for Mr. Magoo, Gunga Dot, as they had him buried under the ground. So, but it was a cute cartoon. Nathan, what were some of the parts that you thought were kind of nice in this last cartoon of today's episode?
It was nice hearing Rita again.
Rita, look! It's an oasis!
Just be quiet or they'll chase us.
It was, seeing Pinky and the Brain was fun.
Two mice about to lunge with a huge, gigantic sponge at the river where the violent waters swirled.
All right, Pinky, now we've got her. We'll capture all the water. Then you and I can take over the world.
I didn't quite understand what their plan was to take over the world, but and it did not work at all. And no fault of Pinky either. It was all Brain doing badly.
yeah, exactly. It was just a bad idea. Like, why'd you soak up that much water and put it at the front of a crane? That doesn't make much sense, Brain. But
what was your goal?
They were starting small. You know, first you get the water. We don't know the rest of their plan. That could have been just, first we need the water to go take to this other place so that we can put it into something else, right? So,
well, you got to do at least the math of figuring out how much load capacity your crane has. Brain, come on.
All right. Well, Kelly, what about you?
I like that so many of the characters were back in the episode. It had been a while since we've seen Rita and Runt. And, I mean, I didn't miss the hippos, but it was kind of cool to see them again. And I just like, I guess the way it was animated. The opening shots of the desert and like the skull on the desert, and it was all very dramatic and cinematic.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah. I think the hippos were used in a proper way too. Just complaining about Perrier, you gotta use them well to complain about sparkling water. The Good Feathers were in it too. Haven't seen them for a while. And yeah, Bernadette Peters had one line. That's what I wonder how they recorded this. Like Artie Johnson, I could see like, okay, well, he lives like in the LA area, like he might have been who knows? You recorded a lot of different cartoons. So maybe they could just get him in you're going to be in the studio over here recording some cartoons here. Can you come over here and record one line? But Bernadette Peters, I mean, she appears later in Wacko's Wish, but she had one line and she hadn't been for a while. So it's kind of like, wow, it really made me wonder how that happened. Seems kind of a waste of time and effort to just have Rita say one line. Mm-hmm. But that's just me. Maybe we'll figure out the answer to that question one of these days. I'll have to get Tom Ruger on again to ask him.
Well, it kind of reminded me of the Quake song. You know how that song starts off? I kept expecting them to start singing a Quake because it had the same rhyme scheme as the early in the morning in the 19, and I forget how that song starts. How does that song start?
It was a quiet, peaceful night. The moon shining bright. February of 1990, something like that. But anyway.
Yeah. And it had the same kind of echo, like, and I kept wanting music to start.
Well, you reminded me of one other cool thing that I really liked, which actually ties us back to something I forgot to mention, which is the variable verse for today was Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Hunchback of Notre Dame.
And Tony J was the narrator of this cartoon, who plays one of my favorite Disney villains, Count Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Such a good animated film. probably the boldest Disney film they have made in quite a while, because it's, in a lot of ways, doesn't feel like a kid's film. There's a lot of adult themes going on in it. I loved that film. I might have, at the time, not so much today, but at the time, I loved it even more than The Lion King, actually. But I thought it was underappreciated also. Maybe I was just rooting for it too much. But I love that film, and I love Tony Jay's performance in it. He's so perfect for that. So I love his
and there's some
deep voice.
amazing songs in that one too. So.
Yeah. Hellfire is one of my absolute favorite songs. Cut to me in the late 90s, in high school, just buying the CD and this singing along to Count Frollo. I was such a nerd. Good thing I got out of that. Well, let's go ahead and talk. Let's go and get to our water tower rating. So what do you guys think? Out of 5 water towers, how many water towers would you give today's episode? Kelly, let's start with you.
I think I will give it 3.5. It was a fine episode, but nothing really jumped out and made me laugh hysterically or anything like that. And the songs weren't terribly memorable, but I did like the mashups of Broadway musicals and, the references to Phantom of the Opera and stuff like that, because it is one of my favorite musicals. And I think I would have enjoyed the Gunga Dot portion better if I had been familiar with the source material. So 3.5. It was a fine episode.
All right. And Nathan, what about you?
I also am giving it 3.5 water towers because the same as Kelly. A lot of it I don't quite know. I only seen Phantom of the Opera. I've never heard Gunga Din, whatever the original one is. But and it was all interesting enough. But honestly, I don't know how memorable it will be in a week or so.
Yeah. And I'll dip down just a little lower than you guys. I'm going to give it a 3, which is, still, it's a good episode. But like you said, I don't really see myself going back to this one anytime soon. It's not a bad episode, but it's not a great episode. It's just kind of a, medium episode. It's like, that's good, but I'll, move on to the other stuff and revisit those in the future. And so 3 for me. Well, let's go ahead and get to our poll results from last week. Or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. The question that we asked was, which of these variant verses is your favorite? And Kelly, Nathan, we're going to have to do a tiebreaker on this one. The choices were Tarzan and Janie, Novocaine, Meet Mark Twainy, Presidential Campaigny. Tarzan and Janie got 21%. Presidential Campaigny got 23%. Novocaine got 28%. And Meet Mark Twainy got 28 as well. So we have to do a tiebreaker between Novocaine and Meet Mark Twainy. Nathan, what do you think is better of those two?
I'll vote for Novocaine.
Okay. And Kelly, which one do you think?
I also vote for Novocaine.
I was going to say Meet Mark Twainy, but Novocaine is the winner. So there you go. Novocaine, the winner of these variant verses. It's so funny when people we put a variant verse up, they always go, well, I like chicken chow mein. It's like, well, that one is an older, you have to go back in the archives for these. That's why you got to use the hashtag Animaniacast poll so you could search and see if we've already asked that question, because goodness knows I do that a lot. Well, let's go ahead and get to the question for this week. Nathan, what do we got?
All right. So on the episode previous to this one, we had the flame on it, I believe, and that was his last episode. And it may have even been multiple weeks back. I don't remember when we had the flame on last, but I believe it was when he was on Oh Say Can You See.
Yes, he did the national anthem.
Yeah, so that was episode 79. And that was his last appearance. So what was your favorite appearance? And instead of saying the episode title, I think we should just say the situations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so we can fit it into the thing.
And then also people will know what they're voting for. So the Declaration of Independence, Paul Revere's Ride, or the Star-Spangled Banner.
Right. Which I might be able to fit that in. Who knows? We'll see what happens. And to find out how I shorten that, just head over to Twitter and go to twitter.com/Animaniacast, or simply search on Twitter for hashtag Animaniacast poll. You could find that poll, make your voice heard, and we'll see who wins next week. Well, let's go ahead and get to some contact information. Kelly, where can people get in contact with you online?
I am on Twitter at Yoda Princess, YODAPRNCSS, or you can email me, Kelly at BigShinyRobot.com.
All right, and Nathan, what about you?
I am also on Twitter. I am at JangoFT, and that is me.
All right, and as for the Animaniacast, we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, and hey, you should all join the Discord group, which is discord.animaniacast.com. You can join the discussion where we talk with other Retro Zap hosts of different podcasts and different Retro Zap writers. I mean, I don't know, we just talk about stuff that's going around, like, I don't know, Star Wars movies or Animaniacs merchandise or just whatever you want to talk about. So it's a lot of fun. No haters allowed. It's discord.animaniacast.com. Hey, there's other things I should plug too. Like, I don't know, our survey that's coming up. We're going to be wrapping up our episodes of Animaniacs very shortly. So if you go over to survey.animaniacast.com, you can vote and tell us what you think we should talk about in between the episodes of the classic Animaniacs series and the new ones that are coming out in 2020. Should we talk about Pinky and the Brain, Tiny Toons, Freakazoid, or a mix of all three of them? Who knows? Let us know. Nathan, I know you voted.
I did vote.
I
wrote it on the Discord.
Yeah, and I think you even wrote down in the comments, "Hi, this is Nathan. I voted, Joey. Hi." And I was like, okay, Nathan put his vote in, so you should too.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure you knew, because I said I did it on Discord, but then you'd be like, did he actually do it? You know, so, yeah, I did it.
Okay, good. So you can do it too. Head over to survey.animaniacast.com. Well, that'll wrap things up for us. So, for Nathan and Kelly, this is Joey saying good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds of the Animaniacs characters or any other Animaniacs-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Warner Brothers, Amblin Entertainment, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animaniacast unless otherwise indicated.
That's all.